The feeling of releasing anything that you've created is unparalleled. So then when you get a review and someone smashes it to pieces, it hurts.
For over 20 years, British software company TheGameCreators have been producing game-making software such as Dark Basic, FPS Creator and the often maligned GameGuru. Despite cultivating a loyal fan base, they've also drawn criticism for their products and over-promising features. Now, TGC are hoping to shake off their tarnished reputation with their latest offering, GameGuru MAX. I sat down with CEO and lead developer Bamber to discuss both MAX and its predecessor and what the future holds for both.
We'll start with the strangest thing in the room, which is one of my hobbies, which is robotics. But I'm not very good, so that's why it's a hobby. My name is Bamber. I'm the CEO of TheGameCreators. I was 9 years old and I only had one Christmas present, and it was a Commodore VIC-20. And it came with a huge silver ring-bound manual. And I went from cover to cover, following all the instructions. By the end of it, I knew how to program a computer. By the age of 12, I was making games and selling them. I've written everything: sound editors, music editors, modelers, 2D art packages, programming languages. I've had to write everything to create that one game. The games were rubbish, by the way, but the tools were great. I couldn't get enough of it, making stuff and then sharing it and selling it. I always liked the selling it part. That was sort of something that motivated me personally. Certificate of incorporation for TheGameCreators used to be called Data Basic Software Limited. 1999, that's when all of this started.
Before we got into Max, I wanted to dissect GameGuru Classic. A common complaint of Classic is many of its features are unfinished or underdeveloped, so I asked Lee why this was.
I have been accused, quite rightly, of it's good enoughness, right? It works. Well, what do you want? It works. Of course, what I'm not seeing is there's a difference between it works and it's something anyone would want to use. There's a quality bar that I set relatively low because the functionality is there, but there's more work that is required to get to that high level of quality and that polish that everyone says, yes, now that is nice. And I seldom get to that point simply because there's another thing to write. I need to get on and make something else work. If I say a thing, I better deliver it. It's not a good thing to say you're going to do a thing and then not do it, or take such a long time to do it, you may as well not bother, because by the time you finished it, the person who wanted it in the first place is gone.
I then did a quick fire round of features that were either promised during GameGuru's development that were never delivered, or ones present in previous software that never found their way into Classic. Physics, allies, tracers and laser beams, a barter system, parallax occlusion mapping, multiple cameras, so you can attach a camera
to your rocket.
Oh, the multiple cameras, attach it to the rocket and fly it down a corridor. I actually said that on camera as well. Surely there are more important things, Lee, you could be working on.
I do think multiple cameras would have been an excellent addition, though, to be able to have security cameras, live TV feeds, things like that.
I suppose had I repitched it as that sort of a gameplay element for multiple cameras than just sticking it to the end of a rocket, it probably would have made it into the product.
Real-time shadows and dynamic objects taken into account by the light mapper.
It was a technical challenge. Baked lights and real dynamic lights, they are chalk and cheese. They're two completely different systems, and getting them to marry it nicely together is always a tricky one. As soon as you had to have more than one shadow, it would slow down into a crawl. So it's like, well, let's just use one shadow very cleverly. But it wasn't really what people wanted.
A menu editor.
You could do a menu editor, but you had to go into Notepad.
Okay, fair enough. Video textures.
That technology exists in the engine. Even today, there's some code sitting there to do that. So yeah, that was crazy not to integrate that. It was probably a 10-minute job.
Refraction and distortion textures. Bullet holes and blood splatters. Windows that shatter. Soft particles. CSG punch message. To punch holes in walls to get windows and doors.
Yes.
I used to love that
I
feature.
regret. The reason it was taken out, there's a performance cost. It takes time to punch all them holes. But I love CSG. You could take 10 models and turn it into 50 models But yeah, I regret not having CSG to this day.
Alternate textures.
Our understanding was not a lot of people used alt texture. It's about cleaning up the user experience, and when it's been scaled back, it's not out of spite, it's how do we make it easier for a new user to get used to the software.
With all that in mind, I was curious why GameGuru MAX was ever needed in the first place. Why not just continue to develop GameGuru Classic?
GameGuru Classic is based on, believe it or not, Dirt Basic Pro. And at some point during the GameGuru development, this was after it was launched on Steam, we made the decision to move it to C++, but we didn't write it from scratch. We wrote a converter, which would take the entire Dirt Basic script, if you call it, basic, and convert it to its equivalent C++. And then we went through that and cleaned it all up, code commented it, but connected it to the same old Dirt Basic Pro engine. The problem is, we were still stuck with this old, over 10-year-old game engine programming language tech. One of the big critiques of GameGuru Classic was the visuals just weren't there. We were being compared to 3D games from 1995. That's how passionate people on Steam hated the visuals of GameGuru Classic. But it finally reached a point where we thought we really do need a new graphics engine now. We do need to upgrade all of the technology on which these games and our GameMaker is built. And there was a debate about, do we use Unity, do we use Unreal? And then we add our game tool on top of that. And we finally landed on a product called Wicked Engine, which was an open source graphics engine. It wasn't really a games engine, more of a graphics engine with an abstraction layer for DirectX 11, DirectX 12 and Vulkan. We already had the game engine, we just needed a nice new graphics engine, but bit by bit we started replacing all of the old stuff. If it was just little bits and tweaks here and there, yeah, we could have called it a GameGuru Classic Update. But by the time we finished, we practically ripped everything out of that was old and we put in all new things. It was a new product. And so GameGuru MAX became that. It was the answer to all of the critique that GameGuru Classic has met over the last 5 years. And a rewrite was the way to do it.
GameGuru MAX's development has suffered delays, with the release date being pushed back several times. I asked Lee why this was.
It was always well meant, the deadline. We looked at the time we had and what we needed to do, and we thought, we'll aim for that. What happened was, as we got closer to that deadline, we didn't feel like that quality was there. You go back far enough in our history, we would have put a product out and let's see what happens, let's see if it does any good. This time we didn't want to do that. We thought, I'm not happy about this. I'm not happy that this is what we're going to release. It was a hard decision, but we thought, we've got to do it. We've got to make sure that we're happy with this product. Everyone's going to be our friend afterwards, and someone's going to probably hate us, but I think the majority of people will understand and will want that better product. We pushed it back, so we'll get it all done for Christmas. And then we'll release it and everyone will have a nice Christmas present and they can play it at Christmas. Rick was looking at the software and saying, no, we're not hit the mark yet. So what do you mean? Everything's ready, we're ready to roll. We can't set the deadline back again. People will just walk away, they'll not believe it'll ever come out. He said, but look at it, we could do better than this. And so, because we'd already done it once, we thought, well, it felt right before, it also feels right now. We're going to disappoint a lot of people, but let's do it right. So let's get to the point where it is of a quality that the entire team are happy with, and then we'll release it. This time, as we lead up to that deadline, we've got smiles on our faces, we're happy. It was the product we wanted back in September, and we were brave enough to upset some people so we could have that product and see it and test it. And I'm pretty confident we are going to release on the 25th of March 2022.
So, what are some of GameGuru MAX's headline features?
GameGuru MAX will have a full storyboard editor. Instead of just creating a level and then secretly chaining them together in mysterious ways, you get a full storyboard. We'll give you your splash screen, then you got your title screen, you got your loading screens, you got your game won and lost screens, you got your in-game screens. All the screens of your game you can now edit. When you go into the title screen, being able to change the buttons, the text, the colours, the images, move them around. You don't have to go into all the scripting of programming what they do. All that's been done for you. But you get to change all of the aesthetics of what you see to truly customize it for your game. And that's one of the big critiques from Classic. Oh, it's just a glorified level editor. Well, GameGuru MAX isn't. It's the full package now. You can create the whole game and all of the screens within that game. You can have all your levels in your storyboard. Level 1 goes to level 2, level 2 goes to level 3. Level 1 can go to level 1, 2 and 3. So you can lay out the whole map of your game right in front of you. That didn't exist in GameGuru Classic. As I've mentioned, we replaced the graphics engine entirely. So now expect that higher of fidelity, proper PBR, all of the things you'd come to expect from a nice modern graphics engine, which is of course the Wicked engine and has actually been written by someone who works in the AAA industry, so he knows what he's doing. And included in that, when we've made this decision, and I think we'll stick to it, is the idea that all lights are dynamic. So every light can move, every light can cast a shadow if you want it to. Obviously within certain technical constraints, there's no such thing as infinite, but you certainly have all of the things that you need now to stage the lighting for your scenes and all the stuff that comes with it. So yeah, that's a big boon. Another big one, really proud of this one, is the terrain generator. One of the critiques is, old GameGuru Classic terrain's too small. They never actually filled it up, but they still complain that the map wasn't big enough. I thought, right, I'm going to give you big. I'm going to give you infinite. How do you give someone infinite terrain? Procedural generation. So the further you walk in that direction, it just generates some more mountains. And you can keep walking as far as you like. So you can't complain about the size of the terrain anymore. It goes on forever. However, to meet technical constraints, we've given you an editable area that you can size big and small, and all the calculation happens within there for calculating stuff like navigation meshes and physics, etc. And you can pick biomes, you can pick deserts and Arctic, you can pick rainforest or a plain or nothing, and you can change all those seed values, all those different factors that change the procedural algorithm. All you do is pick a biome and click generate and you're done. Or you can go in and make lots of little tweaks and changes. In GameGuru Classic, you had to grow all the hills yourself. Every hill you had to make and paint. With GameGuru MAX, all the hills are there. You land in nature. You could land in the middle of the rainforest, you look around, there's grass, there's trees, there's water, there's bird sounds in the background. It's all built for you. And then all you got to do is clear an area, drop in some buildings, drop in some characters, and away you go. We took away the stuff that, yes, you could have done it in Classic, but it was boring, it took ages and it didn't look very good. So we've turned to technology to speed it up, make it faster, and so your games will just look better and play better.
The early access version of Max will ship with 7 pre-made biomes and an 8th blank one. But some users will be wondering, can we customise our own biomes?
We've already been asked, we want customization of biomes. I don't want your 7 biomes. I want a biome for Mars. Can't I just pull together all the textures that I know I need and then still use your proceed generator? But I want my own biomes configurable at the top. I like that idea. I do anticipate that you will be able to configure your own biomes, and I also expect, and this will all be folded into the same work, that we'll be releasing additional biomes. We're using this almost this API for creating biomes that we're going to use for ourselves, but we can give out to the community and then they can use it to create their biomes as well. So I do see that being a thing, but I don't have any date for when that feature will be released. Another area that I'm really pleased about, and this is one that will grow in time, is the visual logic system. So in the past, GameGuru Classic, you had a key and a door, and you had to fiddle around with text fields to connect the two things together. In GameGuru MAX, all you're going to do is go into the visual logic editing mode and drag a line from the key to the door. And it establishes that connection. And then there's a little blob in the middle that when you open it up, you can decide what that relationship is between those two objects. So a key in a door, a switch in a door, a zone that you enter triggers a character to appear. All those sorts of things can now be done visually. So you don't need to code, but you can still create logic within your gameplay. And for those who want more control but still don't want to script, we have the behavior editor. Think of it as a flowchart, and each box on your flowchart is a logical, high-level logical instruction. So play an animation, play a sound. Is the player within 20 meters of me, then do this. If it's further than 20 meters, do that. It's a nice, easy progression of logic. kind of getting closer to scripting, but you don't have to break out Notepad++. You can literally do a lot with those two things. If people want more, perhaps even scripting inside GameGuru MAX, we'll listen. But I think if you want to script, there's other choices. There's Unity and Unreal. You know, you have to script if you want to make anything decent in those two. Let GameGuru MAX be the one where you don't have to script ever, and you can still create your logic. So that, it's understated because you can't do screenshots of it, but I think it's one of the most powerful parts of GameGuru MAX. It's going to look good, it's going to play fast, all the stuff you're going to want as a minimum, but the fact that you can craft all the logic within your game, that's pretty cool stuff. And it's still easy, and you can still press that button and sell what you make at the end of it.
This neatly led me on to asking about the 3 genre buttons within Max's editor.
When we build an expectation of what GameGuru MAX can do, we want to basically point at, it can do this, and it can do this, and it can do this, and that's it. Because if we just say, it's a game maker, build the game of your dreams, and leave it at that, people will think, oh, I can make a racing game on Mars, and no, you can't really do that. We don't do vehicles yet. So what we want to do, first of all, is to create those scopes. Great at shooters, great at RPG, great at puzzle. And for the merch one, we're just doing the shooter one. But you're right, there will be some the hybridity about it. The stuff in shooters can also be used in the RPG element, which can also be used in the puzzle. And there'll be a lot of crosstalk between those 3 mechanisms. But there are mechanisms that are very specific to a shooter experience. The idea of combat with guns and projectiles, and the AI for that. Whereas RPG, you could probably pin that more towards that's trading and adventures and crafting things. And then puzzles is like elevators that can move and disappear, in a maze that you have to traverse, or a puzzle you've got to solve which unlocks a force field, etc. So there are actually tropes within each of those. And if we had a button which, when you select it, just gives you access to those very common shootery things that you want, and you press the RPG. Now it collects all of the inventory and the crafting stuff all in one place. They can very quickly get at the tool that you want. If we just didn't have those and just had it all in one place, it might be overpowering. So that was the logic behind it. Of course, it's potentially setting us up to shoot ourselves in the foot if then we add 3 more genre types and now we're running out of space at the top. And it could be that this is the wrong approach. There is so much crosstalk between these features that it doesn't make sense to confuse the user that says, oh, well, where's this? Oh, you have to click that to get at that. Well, I'm using that for my shooter one. Why do I have to click on the RPG one? But we're going to find that out when we actually release functionality for the RPG and puzzle and see what people do with it. If they follow along with our thinking that it's going to work, great, we keep it. If it's like, no one's using it, no one's getting it, and it's confusing everyone, we'll get rid of it. You know, that again is why we use the community as our sounding board, because they're the ones who are going to use it. And if we've put something in that they can't use, we'll change it.
Will Max be backwards compatible with GameGuru Classic levels?
GameGuru MAX will be partially compatible with GameGuru Classic FPM levels. You will have created some characters in GameGuru Classic. Those characters are not compatible, so those characters won't appear in GameGuru MAX. Some of the scripts that you might be dependent on, those won't be functioning, and certainly any custom shaders, they won't be compatible because we've completely rewritten the graphics engine. It uses a whole different set of shaders. But certainly, if you've laid out your topography, you've dropped in objects, you've staged everything, a lot of that will come across into Max. But I will say, expect to do some work. It won't just basically be out of the box functioning. Not that you'd want it to. Max is adding a lot of extra things you can do. So you will want to take that level and then improve it with the new Max features. You won't have to start from scratch. You will have to grab a big chunk of what you've got in Classic and move it to Max, but it's not 100% forward compatibility.
Will we be able to rebind controls in GameGuru MAX?
So for the merch early access, there will be no configuration of player control keys or other control methods. They will be documented, so you'll know what those keys are, but for the merch early access version, they're actually fixed. We have a design. It's part of our roadmap for after merch, which allows full customization of all the controls. So everything that you use to interact with your game can be remapped. We just looked at our plate, and we thought, what is important for merch? So yeah, it's on our roadmap, it's just not for the merch release.
The new features sound great, but it will all be for nothing if the engine isn't optimised. I asked Lee what measures he's taking to ensure Max performs better than its predecessor.
We had a choice to make when we wrote the terrain system. It was, do we do it the traditional way of just reserving some memory and then creating texture layers with some nice shaders to paint the geometry? And then Paul, one of the developers on the GameGuru MAX team, said, no, we can do virtual texturing. We can have a near infinite amount of detail and we just stream the stuff in when you need it. And so what actually happens now in the terrain system is it constructs the texture of the terrain as you need it and puts it in a cache. And then we read from the cache, which is faster, to actually render all of that terrain. For the merch version, you'll be able to play with that. But the technology I just talked about, we want to extend it to the object system. So just as we can have this insanely massive terrain with very high detail of textures, we can have that with objects. But I don't see a reason why you couldn't have 50,000 objects in your level, but you don't need to deal with most of them. And the only ones that have any kind of texture detail are the ones nearest to you. And so you virtually texture in the texture detail of the objects. And it goes without saying that the objects will all be instants. So if you have 20 of the same thing, it's one draw call. So yeah, we have aspirations to bring in clever technologies to solve these large level issues. And as a byproduct of that, the memory problems go away. But we are constantly looking at both performance and memory in GameGuru MAX. We're not content anymore just to sit back and say, well, it works and it works on my machine, so let's sell that. What we want to make sure that it runs great on a minimum spec. I'm into my virtual reality. So the Mirage, the Oculus Quest, the Quest 2, there's some more up here, that's a Dell. Then we have my laptop deck. So this is where we've got the lowest spec laptop you can buy that can run VR. So good test bed.
Despite a long history of developing VR educational tools based on their game engines, VR never made it into Classic, despite being promised. I wanted to ask Lee why this was.
Adding virtual reality to GameGuru was definitely something I was thinking about, but also in contrast to all of the other features that we'd already said we'd do. I had no right to put my personal preference into the GameMaker when we'd already said, oh, we're going to add this, we're going to add that. Even 7 years ago, VR was a niche, rich person's toy. Now, you can get one for $300. That's probably why it never got priority and never ended up in the early version of GameGuru. But I think you have to do VR right. Before we go out to the world and say, we have VR, I think it has to be correct. And I think we're going to be able to do that this year.
DLC and model packs have been an intrinsic part of the Game Creators business model for years, so I wanted to know more about any special plans to expand Max's asset library.
In Classic, we kind of did what we did with FPS Creator. We just bundled together the largest amount of assets we could carry and then put a really low price on it and then sell it on Steam. And that works fine. The problem was you couldn't really make a game with any one pack. It might be like the hospital building of your first-person shooter. But that's it, the pack just did a building or a room. What we thought was, wouldn't it be great if we could do a DLC that's a whole kit for a game? So you'll have your biome, your static geometry, your buildings, your characters, your weapons, your logic, the sound effects, the music, the images you might need, all of it in one place. And so we're going to call them game kits, and they will be very themed. We have one that is in production right now called Aztec, but you can imagine you'll be able to make a game set in the era of the Aztecs, with all the characters and geometry and all the things that you would expect, including the weapons, the traditional weapons of the time. We're also discussing another idea called booster packs. And these fall back on that traditional, give me 1,000 of a thing because I want choice. If people say, yes, that is a good idea, those booster things, then we'll put more energy into that. But I really want to see the game kits take off. It'll provide you characters that have all of the animations that you'll need. You won't be able to get that pretty much anywhere else. So that's what I want to do with the DLCs this time around for GameGuru MAX.
Looking at in-game footage of Max, I couldn't help but wonder what games Lee took inspiration from when developing it.
In an ideal world, in an infinite amount of budget and time, what would Lee like to have GameGuru MAX games look like? It would spit out versions of Far Cry 6 because they got it to a T. They'd spent a long time getting it to that point. It's not like it just popped out of the sky one day. They haven't thrown the engine away. They've just refined it and refined it and refined it to a perfect piece of art. So if there was one game I'd turn to take my inspiration from, it would be the Far Cry series.
So, what are Lee's ambitions for GameGuru MAX?
My expectations for GameGuru MAX will be total global domination. No, what I want it to be, it's a niche product, certainly. Not everyone wants to use game makers. So a lot of people will be disenfranchised wanting to make a game, use the big popular tools, and realise they haven't made a game for one reason or another. I want GameGuru MAX to be the catch net for those users. Don't give up your dreams of making a game. Before you give up completely, check out GameGuru MAX. And I see that as being a real need. And hopefully it will render a service to all the people who want to make a game of a certain caliber, but don't necessarily want to create models or script and all the other technical and skill sets that you'd need to pull it all together. We do all that for you. All you do is come up with an idea. I see GameGuru MAX, much as you've seen with the evolution of all our other products, go on for years, grow, hopefully improve over time, and stay relevant. We're a game making company, and we've always done game makers, and we've always tried to produce something that is a bit different, that isn't quite like everybody else's. I don't see that philosophy changing anytime soon, and I'm hoping that GameGuru MAX is finally the game maker where you can make a game and you can sell it in the shops and no one will know it was written in GameGuru MAX. That's the ambition.
And what does the future hold for GameGuru Classic?
We are contemplating first cleaning up and then open sourcing the GameGuru Classic engine. If someone adds something to the code and they're okay with it, we'll put it into the real product. So it will actually be out on Steam as one of the updates. Instead of just bug fix updates, we could throw in any contributions that have been made in that. GameGuru Classic is going to go off in one direction, and Max has already set off with its brand new technologies off in a different direction, and they will slowly, tectonically move apart and create their own subcultures. I noticed that with FPS Creator when we opened that up for modding, all kinds of crazy things went in, and it was hard to sort of call it official anymore. And we're also contemplating bringing back the release of DLC on Classic as well. The thinking behind that is, if we're going out finding artists or sourcing material and putting it out for GameGuru MAX, can't we modify that asset slightly and put it in GameGuru Classic? So we're thinking of that as well.
And finally, I asked Lee if he had a message for the game creators' dedicated and loyal community.
My message to the community is thank you very much for your patience and your support. Your patience will not be misspent, and I hope to bring out a great product in 2022 for you, and I'll continue to support that and you to the best of my abilities.
This interview was just a small part of a much larger documentary I'm making on the game creators, about their products, their history, and their tumultuous relationship with their most valuable asset, their community. So make sure you subscribe to keep up to date. I promise you, it'll be worth the wait. Are you unsatisfied by the fact that almost nobody has been able to create and release a proper game with it?
So